So everyone knows that Rooster Teeth's first big show was Red vs. Blue. But did you know that they also had a second show at the time that's considered one of the worst things that Rooster Teeth has ever made?
Yeah, everyone, look it over! I am being from another country.
Guac! Wade! I don't want you between my legs!
Alright, first thing, there's only minor spoilers in this video, so you can still enjoy the series after watching this. So, what's this show about? The Strangerhood was a machinima show created during the early years of Rooster Teeth, alongside Red vs. Blue. Except instead of using Halo, it used The Sims 2, and instead of being in a canyon, it's in a strange town, where 8 people wake up on Strangerhood Lane, and they have no idea who they are, why they're there, or what's happening. They soon find out that the neighborhood is not what it seems, and that they're stuck in a strange reality, where they have to compete and do challenges for the entertainment of a mysterious entity. So, sounds pretty cool, right? The idea is pretty interesting, and Rooster Teeth even partnered with EA, the publishers of the Sims games, to make this. So then why is it so forgotten and considered so bad by the audience? I mean, even Bernie himself admitted that the show didn't work. Well, first impressions are important, right? And this show is really strange. Put yourself in the context of when it came out. Imagine you're a Red vs. Blue fan in 2004. You're used to the clever, witty humor of a bunch of idiots put in really funny situations mixed with a genuinely interesting story. And you learn that Rooster Teeth is making a new show. And you're like, awesome, I love Red vs. Blue, I'm gonna go check this out. So you download the first episode, and this is the first thing you see.
Strange people in a strange bed sounds like a party to me, man. My name is definitely Durnt.
Dirt?
Durnt.
Dirt.
Durnt.
Dirt?
Oh my god, what am I watching?
Hello, young males. Are your parents at home?
These clips are all from the first episode, so when you first watch Strangerhood, you basically watch 5 minutes of this.
Oh well.
So as for first impressions, it's just so bizarre. Like, what even is this show? And it just gets weirder and weirder as the show progresses. Because unlike Red vs. Blue, which was meant to be its own story, Strangerhood was actually meant to be a parody of many popular pop culture shows at the time, such as Lost, CSI, and American Idol. You can see this in the characters, which are 8 stereotypes of characters that you see in these types of shows, such as the straight man, the stoner, the vaguely racist foreigner, the gold digger, the other woman in the show that no one remembers, and Gus. And in these characters, you'll find a lot of familiar voices, such as Emmy-nominated Tesla owner Bernie Burns.
Also, I burn down house. And burn off mustachio. All my fans, I can kiss you on the mouth.
This is Bernie's character, which meant that he agreed to do these lines. Think about that for a second. This guy is Tovar, by the way, and he is the best character in the whole show. So the characters are pretty weird, but the premise of it being a parody of pop culture is pretty interesting, right? It is, but it's also where the problem comes from. Like I said before, the entire series is meant to parody shows like Lost and American Idol, with each episode being a parody of a different show, such as episode 13, which parodied Law & Order, and episode 6, which was a play on American Idol. Strangerhood then used these parodies to make jokes and carry the events of the show, essentially like WandaVision before the MCU was even a thing. But I think the difference between WandaVision and Strangerhood is that Strangerhood relied a bit too much on being a parody. Because the basic premise of the show was to parody pop culture and reality TV, almost all of the humor is based around that type of comedy. So if you're like me and you've never watched American Idol or CSI, you may not get the references, and the humor may not make sense to you. It essentially just goes from one parody to the next, introducing certain themes and premises in one episode, only to be thrown out in the next one, shoving in a new set of themes and premises. And it just feels kind of messy, like there's no consistency in the show. And I get that this is what they were going for, but because the series is mostly just references to those shows, the story really doesn't make sense a lot of the time. Speaking of the story, let me do a spoiler-free summary of how the story went.
In terms of story, we have no story.
The plot starts off as a bunch of people waking up in a strange town with no memory of what's going on. Then, a mysterious tragedy happens to one of the characters, and the gang must work together to solve the mystery of who they are and what's going on in this neighborhood. And that's how it starts, but for a long time, it doesn't go anywhere. So the story starts in episode 2 to 5, but since each episode parodies a different pop culture show, it's mainly just parody skits from episode to episode. So for like 10 episodes, almost no story progression happens. Then, near the end, the story that they started at the beginning finally starts to pick up again. And this is where a lot of people fall off in the show, because it's this long stretch of episodes where it's just parodies and references that can be a drag to get through. And it's a shame because when you get to the end and the story does happen, I actually found it to be pretty interesting. It's basically one of those mystery stories where at the start, tons of things are happening and none of it makes any sense. But at the end, all of the missing pieces come together, and then it's like, everything makes sense now. So to sum up, Strangerhood is a series that begins as a really bizarre show that starts off pretty interesting, but for so many episodes, it just drags from parody skit to parody skit, and finally, at the end is when things start to happen again. So that's what I think, but what do the fans think? Well, the reception was, mixed. So I gathered some comments from the community because I thought it'd be fun to go over some general thoughts from the fans. So, here we go. What is the Strangerhood? Oh man, okay. I haven't watched it myself, but it's considered to be one of the worst things that Rooster Teeth has done. Yikes. It's really not that bad. Here's another. I've never watched the original Strangerhood. Should I watch it? With a fifth of bourbon and all dangerous objects hidden. Oh my god. Well, what about Rooster Teeth? How did they feel about Strangerhood? I mean, some people at Rooster Teeth loved it. Maybe a little too much. However, the original creators talk about Strangerhood as a pretty negative experience. And it's pretty interesting to see their insights all these years later, because we can kind of see where things might have gone wrong. For example, the way that Bernie and Matt described it was that when they made the Strangerhood, the crew scrambled to make a second show so that they could capture the same magic that Red vs. Blue had. And when they landed with The Sims 2, they tried to force it to work.
You know, we maybe selected the game more than we did the project.
Right.
You know? And I don't think that we
wanted to make it work.
Yeah, and I don't think we've done it.
So they tried to base the story around their choice of game rather than focusing on the story and then the game. And this made it feel a bit more forced and less natural feeling than Red vs. Blue. So that's what myself, the fans, and Rooster Teeth thinks about Strangerhood. But should you watch it? Well, probably, yeah. I don't know. Why not? Honestly, it's a really dumb show, and so much of it doesn't make any sense, but if you just view it as one of those so bad that it's good shows, with lots of references to pop culture, then maybe you'll like it. Basically, just watch it as if you're watching an episode of Theater Mode, and you'll have fun. Plus, it's only like an hour long, and you can watch the whole thing for free on the Rooster Teeth site, so link in the description. And yes, I know Strangerhood did have its fans and developed a cult following, I guess we can call it. So it was liked by people, it's just that performance-wise, Rooster Teeth was hoping for another Red vs. Blue, and it unfortunately wasn't anywhere near successful. And over the years, it was just kind of forgotten about, being overshadowed by Red vs. Blue. And when it was talked about, it was almost always talked about as either a failure that they can learn from, or as a meme. Shout out to Ray Narvaez for that one. But there are some positives to this whole experience, because usually what happens is that when someone tries something new and it doesn't work, they go, oh no, that new thing didn't work. Let's just stop trying new things and just stick to what we know we can do. And especially now with the layoffs in 2019 and projects like Vicious Circle not working out, so many people said that these bad things wouldn't have happened if Rooster Teeth had just stuck to what they were good at. And Rooster Teeth totally could have had the same mentality when Strangerhood didn't work out. But they knew better. They knew that just because something you try doesn't work out doesn't mean that you should stop trying altogether. So Rooster Teeth pushed through and kept experimenting with new things. And when some of those new things didn't work out, they went, okay, that didn't go as planned, but we won't give up. And that's how we got Achievement Hunter, and Funhouse, and the Rooster Teeth podcast, and Off Topic, and the RTAAs, and Ruby. So if Rooster Teeth saw the reception of Strangerhood and just stuck to what they were good at, Achievement Hunter wouldn't exist, the Rooster Teeth podcast wouldn't exist, Off Topic wouldn't exist. So thanks, Strangerhood, for not only being an absolute meme, but also showing us that it's always good to keep trying new things.
Hey man,